Hi, this is not my usual content, but I'll be sharing my testimony today. I'm gonna try to keep this video as short as possible. Alright, so let's set the scene. I had been praying this prayer for months. If you see me looking down, I'm looking at my phone where I wrote my notes. I got to a phase in my life where I just really didn't know what I wanted, but I knew I wanted to be where God wanted me to be. So I began to pray for God to place me exactly where I needed to be. I just wanted his will. Everything began on July 13th. I'm gonna give you all the details and all the dates. My lease was ending July 31st. On July 13th, I scheduled 4 tours. On that day, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. My mindset was already not good, and I almost didn't go. I had been talking to my mom, and she told me about how God is omnipresent and the devil is not, and how the enemy cannot hear your prayers inside of your head, that he cannot hear your thoughts inside of your head. It's when you speak them out loud that he can hear them. And I decided to use this and only say these prayers in my head so that I knew when it came to pass that it could only be God. In my head, I asked God, if it is yes, to show me cheetah print. If it is no, to show me stripes. I head out, and the first thing I see as I'm walking down the stairs is a dead dragonfly. And the print is like, to me, it gave cheetah print. But when I show you this picture, so I see this dead dragonfly with the cheetah print. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, God, like, let me tighten up right now. Let me fix my attitude. But I also took it as God confirming me, like, yes, go on these tours. I'm going to show you what I need to show you today. In the first apartment, the girl that opened the door for me was wearing literally a white and black striped skirt. I was like in my head, okay, God, this is not the one you want for me. But I'm gonna let this lady do her job. I'm gonna go on this tour and look at this building. The second apartment I get to, I already didn't like it. I pull into the garage and there's literally a big mural with just black and white stripes. The third place I go to, I'm like, I'm looking around. I haven't seen stripes yet. Like, could this be it? And I didn't really like it that much, but I was like, if I see the stripes, like, this is where God wants me to be. And then at the end, I see stripes on his pants. And I'm like, all right, God, 3 out of 4. Let's see what this last one is about. This last one, I fell in love with off of the website. I was like, this is so cute. This is so me. But I wasn't able to schedule this tour for the same timeline. So the other ones were like 30 minutes apart. So by the time I drove to the next appointment, it was time for me to go in instantly. This one, I was a whole hour and a half almost early. I called them and I'm like, is there any way you can get me in early? And they're like, oh no, we have back-to-back tours. And I'm like, okay. So I guess I have to wait, whatever. Go there, I sit in my car for a little bit, park up, but it's 95 degrees. It's so hot. My AC is trying to work overtime, but my poor car is struggling. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go sit in their lobby where there's AC at least, and I'm not gonna be hot. I go sit in the lobby and they're like, oh yeah, she should be coming soon. I'm like, okay. I sit in the lobby for 45 minutes. I'm getting frustrated. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I might just come next weekend. Like, I don't even want to wait anymore. I'm hungry at this point. I'm tired. I have a headache. I'm just complaining. Now it's past my time for my tour to start. And I'm like, okay, where is this lady? And I'm like, if she doesn't come 15 minutes after, I'm just gonna leave. Then she comes, she's like, sorry, my last one ran late. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And to God, in my head, I'm like, just show me the stripes so I could go about my day. Like, I don't even wanna go on this tour. I'm just irritated, I wanna go home. I'm in her office, she's like, okay, let me just grab the keys. I'm like, okay. I look down at the floor. This lady is wearing cheetah print Vans. Do you know how long it's been since I've seen Vans, cheetah print? Vans and cheetah print. Like, I was like, oh, let me get a check right now. Immediately mood changes. I'm like, I'm sorry, God. Like, I'm sorry, I'm being a brat right now. So we go see the place and I'm like, oh, this is cute. This is nice. We go back downstairs and she's like, actually, it has a price decrease for $300 less than usual listed only today. And I'm like, what? In my head, I'm like, God, you did this for little old me? I'm so geeked. So She's like, here's the link so you can do it online. They're about to close, all that stuff. I'm like, okay, bet. I get in my car, I call my mom, and I'm just like, Mom, I think I found a place. That same night, I talked to my friend, yapping. You would have thought that this was the end of the story. I'm not usually one to do things like instantly. Like, I like to take some time to think about it. And I didn't even think about signing right there on the spot before anybody else can get it. The next day is Sunday. I go to church. I'm just so grateful, praising God. Wow, I can't believe I found a place. I get a feeling. I'm like, I should probably try to sign it right now. So as soon as I get out of church, in my car, in the parking lot, I'm clicking on the link. It's saying invalid. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I call them back and she's like, hey, I'm so sorry. Somebody already signed. And I'm like, when I tell you my chest, I'm like, somebody signed. I thought, I'm looking at God like, I thought you said this was for me. I thought this all perfectly worked out for me. Like, what do you mean somebody signed? I'm just baffled, really. So this is where the real story begins, I guess. And I'm like, God, question mark. I thought we just talked about this. And I call my mom and she's like, what do you mean somebody signed? And I'm like, somebody already signed. Like, there's nothing I can do. And she was like, well, if it's for you, then they won't get approved, or something will happen where you'll still be able to get signed. She's like, why didn't you just sign right there and then? And I'm like, I just didn't think to do that. She's like, well, I don't know what God is planning, but you know, everything will work out the way it needs to. And I'm in my head, I'm like, girl, I'm not trying to hear that right now. Like, yes, I know everything will work out, but that's not what I'm trying to hear when I thought I heard something. And she's like, and I thought to ask you, did you already sign yet? Is everything set in stone? But the Holy Spirit told me not to. So now I'm even more confused because I'm like, God, why would you tell my mom like not to ask me if I signed? If she would have asked me right after that appointment if I signed, I would have been like, oh, you know what? Let me sign right now. And I would have signed and it would have been done. That's how I thought about it. I'm like, it would have been done. It would have been set. I would have had the apartment. I'm like, God, I'm confused. Like, why did you have her do that? And maybe a week later, I'm just going through my motions. I'm going to work every day. I'm coming home. It's getting closer and closer to me to having to move out. What am I supposed to do? I didn't go on any other tours. Everybody was asking me like, did you at least look at other places? And I'm like, no. After that, I felt like God told me, be quiet. Don't say anything else. So I didn't. Fast forward about a week or two later, I had decided to start taking the non-toll route. One random day I'm at work and I decide to fast for the last half of my work day. I'm just talking to God and I'm like, I don't understand. I just want to hear from you. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, am I just supposed to sit tight? Keep in mind, everything has still been in my head. I'm not saying any of these prayers out loud. So then I'm going home. I'm using GPS again and it takes me a different route for the last part. And I'm like, it never takes me this route. And in my head, I literally say, watch God show me something right now. Because I know he likes to be funny. I take a turn and I see a school. Like, I see like a school field. And I'm like, now watch their mascot be a cheetah. Guess what their mascot was? A cheetah. And I was like, okay, God. So you're telling me what I asked for. Like, okay, so it was that apartment. But like, why is all of this happening then? Then this is, if that was the apartment for me, you know? Like, call my mom and she's like, well, if the other person didn't get denied, then obviously like this wasn't the place for you. And in my head, I'm like, I know this was the place for me. God told me it was the place for me, but I can't tell her that. God already told me, be quiet. Quiet your mouth now. Sometimes you can't even tell anybody what God is telling you until it's all done. Fast forward, the last week of July comes. Everybody in my life is like, have you been touring? Have you been this? Have you been that? I had to change my answer to, I've been doing what God told me to do, because I didn't want to like lie and be like, yeah, I am doing tours. Yeah, I am doing this. I'm not doing any of that. I'm literally just trusting God and praying every day and waking up and showing up and being present. And I can't explain to these people that God told me this is going to be my place, because it sounds crazy to any other person. I text my best friend and I'm like, hey, can I stay with you? I still haven't found a place, but God's doing something. I just need a place to stay for like literally a few days. She's like, of course. I booked the U-Haul and I'm like, maybe God will come through like on the 1st or the 2nd. My mom's like, well, what are you going to do if God doesn't come through for you the day after or the next day? And I'm like, I'll just keep my stuff in a U-Haul. And she's like, that doesn't make sense. keep it in storage. And I'm like, bro, a storage sounds like so much work. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm only gonna be here for a couple of days. Then I go to this other place and they're like, well, we have second month free, but it is July 28th. So if you pay for the 29th, 30th, and 31st, then that counts as the first month. And it'll just be prorated. Your second month free will be the whole month of August. I'm like, God, you are so good. I mean, I had booked the storage the day before I moved out, and I didn't get a chance to go upstairs and see the storage, but they said it was empty. So I'm like, okay. They're like, just bring your own lock and key. Simple. After I load up the U-Haul, we go to the storage and there's a lock on there. And I'm like, what's this? It is now after hours. There's nobody on the grounds. Like, wow, this is literally just sent to upset me. Had a little mental breakdown, had to cry to release. And I'm like, we'll just start again tomorrow. So then the next day comes, move everything in. And then I'm like, well, now what? I'm literally at a clueless point where I don't know what's next. So I get to my friends and I'm like, okay, God's probably gonna work this out in the next couple of days. Like, no big deal. I'm waking up every day. I'm refreshing the apartment website, seeing if anything new came up. Nothing is changing. And I'm like, God, what is actually going on? I'm just confused. I'm getting frustrated, trying to stay afloat as much as I can. And then the next week passes and I'm just like, I tell my friend, I'm like, full transparency, I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure how long I'm gonna have to stay here. I'm hoping it'll be another week, maybe 2. My friends are like, are you sure? Are you sure you're looking? Are you sure this? And I'm like getting mad. I'm getting mad because I'm like, everybody's asking me this question. I'm telling you guys, God told me this. And I know it sounds crazy, but then God clicks to me. He's like, some of this stuff that has to happen to you has to happen so the people around you can have more faith. And I'm like, God, why do I have to be sacrificed? Like, I'm sorry. That sounds so selfish, but like, I'm here trying not to crash out. And God's like, yeah, I'm using this moment for the people around you as well as you. And I'm just like, okay, God, like, here I am. Use me however. Spent every weekend of that month not going on any other tours, not looking at any other apartments, because I believe that God told me that this was the one for me. And I was standing on that. I was standing 10 toes in that. So then I asked God, I'm like, God, just so I'm not confused, if you're telling me that this building is a building I was supposed to be in, show me a purple car. Keep in mind, I'm saying this in my head. It has not a thought has come out of my mouth about anything going on in the past couple of weeks. I just want to confirm that I'm not crazy. I shouldn't be touring other places. I should be waiting on this one place. Here we go. He shows me this, and anybody that knows me knows my favorite shade of purple. I have yet to see a lavender car. Then he shows me this one right after too. And I'm like, okay, I heard you. The days to follow, although I'm confused, God is literally showing me cheetah print in any way at least once a day. And here's where I say God knows his children, because I don't know what I would have done without that reassurance. He knows that I need that reassurance, but he just kept showing me. Whether it was TikTok, whether it was in person, and now I'm coming with another picture evidence. It's August 13th. I go eat tacos with my friend. I see this, and I'm like, okay, God, like, I hear you. I don't understand you right now, but I'm hearing you. I decided to start a fast on August 17th. I'm like, I'm gonna fast for 24 hours for clarity and to hopefully hear God clearly and know what's going on. Initially was just gonna do a 24-hour fast. 20 hours in, I think, I felt led to extend it to a 3-day fast. I had did a 24-hour dry fast, so no liquids, no foods. I had done 36 hours and then I ate, and then I just made sure that the third and final day of my fast, I ate at that same hour. So I basically did a 23-in-1 fast, which was 23 hours dry fast. During that 1 hour, I drank water and I ate a meal. I have never done 3 days fully without eating, so I needed to take that break in between to prepare for the next time I do a 3-day fast, so I can really go the whole 3 days without eating. And on that same day, I also asked God, if this layout is for me, the initial one, show me a worm. If this layout is not for me, show me a blue bird. During that fast, I had about 8 dreams in those 3 days. I am a dreamer. I have dreams that come true in real life. God speaks to me in my dreams about people in my life, about other things. I will have instances where I will see something, like I will be in a place in real life and I've had a dream about it before. So God speaks to me in my dreams. I know a lot of people have different opinions about asking God for a sign. But for me, I'm not at the level yet where I can discern that my yes or my no that I hear in my head is my voice versus God's voice. Especially, I don't want to make the wrong choices anymore. Like, I literally cannot afford it. I want to make all the moves that places me where God wants me to be. So I asked for the sign, I asked for the worm, if this, the bird, if that. I forgot about it, honestly. So then about a couple days or a week later, I go outside. They're having an event on the pool deck. I'm just walking around on the phone. I'm about to sit down and I literally see worms. I have to stop because I'm like, God, what did I ask for? The worms again? Like, oh my gosh, that's for this layout. Like, these were the worms that I saw. I literally had to go back and look them up, and it's literally worms that are native to Florida. There was a bunch of them crawling around. I saw the worm on August 19th, the third and last day of my fast. And I'm like, you know what, God, I'm gonna ask you for one more confirmation. So I said, God, whenever it's time for me to sign, just show me a ladybug. And I'm not gonna check the website anymore because it's starting to make me anxious. Then on August 23rd, just because I have the screenshot, I go into my Bible app and here is the verse of the day. I'm just gonna insert it here so that you can read it. This has now been 23 days since I've technically been homeless. I keep seeing Bible verses about suffering produces endurance. My situation wasn't bad and nothing wrong with staying with my friend. It's just the part where I didn't know what was going on. Like where I felt conflicted that I heard something but I sound crazy because nothing looks like it's happening. I open my Bible app on another day. There it is right here. And I'm like, okay, God, you literally either are showing me cheetah print, scriptures, like you're talking to me so much. In the moment, that's not how I'm feeling though. I'm still feeling frustrated. I'm still feeling confused, but he's literally showing me all these signs. Like looking back, I'm like, wow, he's so patient. Another week goes by and I'm just mentally drained. I go to this spot on campus that I used to literally cry my eyes out at and then act like everything is normal after that. I probably go like once every 4 months. This is also a spot that I used when I was depressed. I was depressed. Same place that I had used for that, and I used just to cry when I was frustrated and then let it go. I'm on the garage in my car. I'm crying my eyes out. I'm like, God, why me? Why am I in this situation? Like, it's not even a horrible situation, but I literally hate Miami. I don't necessarily want to be by my old school that reminds me of whatever situations and traumas that I've experienced here. Keep in mind, this garage has held me down for the 4 years I have been in Florida. Like anytime I was going through too much, I would go in this garage and I would sit there, I would watch the view, play sad music, and I would cry. That sounds so sad to say, but like that was my coping mechanism. And I'm crying my eyes out and I'm like feeling just heavy because I'm remembering all the things that I've came to this garage to cry about. And I'm like, why am I here? Like, what is my purpose here? Like, why here? Like, you are very intentional about the things you do. So why did I end up being here at this place? Like, right next to my campus, right next to all these old things. I don't even associate myself with these people anymore. Like, I don't want to be here. And then I just stopped. And I stopped crying. And I was like, you know what, God? I'm sorry. I just began to praise him for everything he's done in my life, because I could have literally been on the street. I could have been actually homeless. I could have had to move home because I had no other option. And God is still covering me, and I'm just being so ungrateful and such a brat. Just overwhelmed, but I just tell him, I'm like, God, I'm just overwhelmed, but I trust you. I trust what you're about to do. I thank you for everything you've done in my life. I'm like, whatever trauma I experienced here, I want to leave it here. Like, I'm not going to come back to this garage and cry about anything. I'm going to actually cope healthily, like face my problems head on, because I'm going to continue to trust you. I'm confused. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm going to continue to trust you. I end my prayer like that. I go back to my friend's room before I go to sleep. Another one about suffering and what you endure. And I'm like, okay, let me just go to bed. I wake up before my alarm, like an hour before my alarm, because I have a dream. I remember the last couple of snippets before I woke up. At the end, there is a house with a bunch of land around it. It has a big tree in the front yard, and the tree has ladybugs all opening up. And I wake up and I'm like, God, what was that? Like, literally. I scroll on the website. I'm like, the price is still the same. Like, what's changed? Like, am I supposed to sign right now? Like, so I'm literally like, God, I'm a little hard-headed. Can you show me one more time? And I'm scrolling through TikTok on a little break. Took a screenshot of the TikTok I saw. And I'm like, okay, God, but this could be a coincidence. Girl, I have some nerve. I scroll down a little bit more and he shows me this. And I'm like, okay, I got it. I go get my personal laptop. I log in. I go to sign the lease. It's not working. And I'm like, God, not this again. I'm just like, bro, I cannot take another thing. Like, what is happening? I call the building and they're like, oh, I don't know why our website's down. They're like, we can give you a paper application, but that's longer. That's the only option right now. We're not sure why it's not working for you. I'm getting all the paperwork together. I'm probably like September 1st. The date on the move-in was September 5th. Come to find out, everybody, the last day I could have my stuff in the storage before they charge me for the whole next month was September 5th. I'm like, okay, God. So I finished all of my paperwork. I'm wrapping it up. I'm literally calling the place back and forth. And I think on September 3rd, 2 days before I'm supposed to move in, she calls me like, your guarantor didn't get approved. And I'm like, what? And I just get mad. And I'm like, God, what? Like, how much more can I take? Like, this was all supposed to work out so seamlessly after the month that I just had. And I'm just literally confused. This is the last thing literally that I expected to happen. And so I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, my guarantor didn't get approved. And the whole reason why I didn't use my mom as a guarantor is because she didn't know if she'd be in the position to be able to do that for me. She's like, what can I do for you? And I'm like, I don't know if you can do anything. Like, we can try it out. And she's like, okay, well, I'm joining my faith together with yours. And if it's God's will, it will work out, even though it seems like it might not. So I'm like, all right, like, we'll try it. So I'm literally getting her information together on September 4th, between September 3rd and 4th. And she's like, whatever you need, I'll give it to you. I'm like, thanks, Mommy. The lady calls me. She's like, we might have to move your move-in to like September 7th. I'm like, ma'am, respectfully, like, I know you got stuff to do. I'm not the only person you're helping, but I need to move in on the 5th. I was like, I have a storage. I'm moving out of it on the 5th. And that's the last day I could possibly have stuff in there. I have nowhere else to put all my stuff. Like, is there anything we could do? Like, she's like, you know what? If you get me everything by the end of today, I can get it done for you. And I'm like, okay. I'm literally at work, just making phone calls left and right, utilities, renter's insurance, this, that, and the other. I call her and I'm like, listen, I'm trying to do the last thing. They're being real difficult, but I have everything else done. And she's like, if you could send me everything else right now, we will worry about that tomorrow morning. I will make sure you'll be able to move in tomorrow morning. I'm like, thank you. Like, I need that. She calls me and she's like, this is the first time I've ever done, like, this is the fastest I've ever like submitted an application and had all the documents together for somebody. And I'm like, well, I appreciate you for staying late and getting this done for me. Like, I really needed this. Calls me like right before the end of the day. She's like, your mom got approved. I'm like, thank you, Lord. I was able to close out my storage. I'm not going to add too much else, but that is literally the full story, the full testimony. Hopeful and excited to see what God is going to do for me in this next season. I feel like He personally placed me here. Whatever this next phase of life is, whatever this next season is, was intentional, and I'm excited to see what happens in this season. I would have let impatience make me leave that tour that day. Who knows if I would have made my way back here. And I really had to have unwavering faith for this whole experience, or it would not have played out the way that it did if I did not continue to have faith. And the last part of this testimony is after the fact, when everything was done, I finally got to tell my mom the whole story. My mom was like, if this situation were to happen when you had the first apartment, I would not have been able to help you in your time of need. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. God really be knowing everything behind the scenes, but we're not even seeing the whole scope of what God is seeing. It goes to show how much perspective is everything. The first apartment was never going to be mine. I thought so much it was going to be mine, but it was never what God's plan was for me, because I would have never been able to get approved. But God, and he was cooking up behind the scenes. Okay, bye.